Hi.
Here we are in Stephen Gavlik and Carol Smiley. And okay, great. We got a big crowd tonight. And so here we are together again in the virtual meeting space. And I'm assuming that we're all comfortable and warm enough. So we haven't had to go out in the dark and drive a long ways to get to a meeting, which is the blessing of these things. Although I miss seeing people up close and personal. So for those of you who are here for the first time, a double welcome to you. Welcome to the Environmental Management Council, and this is our monthly meeting. The first order of business tonight is to get approval for the meeting minutes from last month, from January. And I can entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion. This is Colleen.
Very good, thank you.
I'll second it, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Bill. All right.
Thank you.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any more easily, is there any objection or any discussion? Okay. All right. I think, Rick, you asked for a note in the meeting about recruiting village EMC members. Am I mistaken that that was you? You're muted.
Michael,
No,
I know Rick.
that wasn't-
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, I agreed to talk to the town of Chatham, the village of Chatham, excuse me, which I did. They brought it up at their next village board meeting, and they are, they put out notice that if anybody's interested, they should be in touch. I don't know that they've had any interest yet. I just haven't gotten a report back from the mayor. So, but I do know that he and the village council put it out there, and they're looking for people.
Well, good, thank you. Bill?
I jumped the gun. Sorry, Rick. I did contact the village of Alacia and village of Kinderhook. And same as Rick, I haven't gotten any responses yet. Well, the boards have responded, but no residents have responded to them as yet. I did put together an email that they could send out to any of their subscribers. So we'll see if anything comes of that. That just came really on Friday. So we'll see what happens this week. There's a board meeting in Kinderhook on Wednesday night, so I'll bring it up again.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick and Bill, for getting the word out on this. It'll be interesting to see 2 or 3 more members from the village level of governance in the county. Be a different level than we worked with so far. All right. David, would you like to perhaps combine a report on the countywide climate smart communities, as well as the presenting imminency of the Solarize program?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. So we are plodding along and moving as quickly as we can toward launching a countywide solar campaign. We've in early February 9th, the County Board of Supervisors passed the resolution to adopt or launch the campaign, and selected the 2 companies, Astral Power, now called Neighborhood Sun, they've merged, and Nexamp, to be the 2 providers to be made available to residents in the county. We're working on an MOU between the providers and the county right now, which was a stipulation of the resolution. It's another step, but we're working on that as quickly as possible, and then setting up a launch page on the county website, which we can then send around that link for people to access information and actually sign up. And it will take you to it'll take you to both of the landing pages for the two companies. People can then evaluate the offers and consider whether they want to sign up. We are the interesting thing and the more relevant thing I think for this group is that we're setting this up in a way where any town that has not previously launched a community solar campaign can piggyback on the efforts of the county, meaning pretty easily pass a resolution and file some paperwork to then and make a commitment, nominal it could be, but a commitment to promote the campaign at the town level as well. And upon getting a minimum number 10, Bill, help me out here, 10 signups at the town level, 25 at the county? Oh,
Yes,
Correct.
10.
Yeah, you're correct.
That's right. Thank you. So upon getting 10 subscribers, NYSERDA will offer a $5,000 grant to the town for that solar campaign. In addition to that, the solar providers will provide a $100 benefit to the subscriber, as well as a $100 benefit to the municipality per subscriber. And that would be split in a town that is piggybacking, $50 for the town, $50 for the county. So the 5 towns that are so far working on this, or in some stage of getting this completed, are Ghent, Claverick, Germantown, Kinderhook, and New Lebanon. Now, New Lebanon, you may ask, well, they're like the leaders. They're the first to do this. They've already done a solar campaign. How could they do another one? They're that good. They want to do a second one. They see a benefit because Ampion, the company that they've been working with, doesn't have any more capacity for the foreseeable future to allow subscribers to sign up. So they would like to make available the Nexamp and Astral or Neighborhood Sun capacity to their town members to sign up. And of course, also benefit from the $50 per subscriber they would get from this new campaign. So they're joining as well. So this is not limited. The piggybacking is not really limited. It's intended primarily for towns that haven't done it yet, but it's not limited to those. And there is an example with New Lebanon. So if there is a town out there other than the ones I've mentioned who we're in touch with, who would like to participate, it's not too late. And the steps are as follows. You need to pass a resolution at your town board or village board, which I can give you a template for, which basically says, this is what a community solar campaign is. The county has done such and such. We are piggybacking on the county efforts, and we're launching a campaign. And the second thing you need to do is file a scoping document with NYSERDA to get that access to that $5,000 NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities grant. And I can forward you the template that some of the towns have used, as well as the county one, so you can fill that out. And that's rather pro forma. That NYSERDA is not holding people's feet to the fire if they've issued this press release or held that event, but it's supposed to kind of delineate the campaign events and the people and the organizations that you plan on working with to promote this opportunity. I should say one other thing I didn't mention, which is all the providers are offering these solar. It's a portion of a solar project. These are not solar credits. You're actually subscribing to a piece of a real project. You might have 1% of a large solar project, and whatever generation comes out of that on any given month is what you'll get credit for against your electric consumption. You continue to get your electricity through the grid, but you get a financial credit in the amount of the solar that's been produced, plus a 10% reduction on the cost of that. So you're saving money, and you're getting solar from one of these projects, and you're helping to incentivize these companies to build these projects in appropriate places throughout the state. So that's kind of how it works. If anyone is interested in following up, time is of the essence. So send me an email. if I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Very cool.
Carol. You might be muted, Carol.
I know. My computer is having trouble, so I'm doing this on my cell phone. What's the deadline for this? Because I would present this to our board. We've already done a community solar, but they might be interested in this. So I'm wondering about the deadline.
There's no hard deadline. We're trying to set this up where towns can. I mean, the deadline is the campaign will run through the end of the year, the county campaign.
Okay, perfect.
But it makes sense to in order to benefit from any sign up in your town. And Carol, what town are you in?
Gallatin.
Okay, so in order for anyone that signs up in Gallatin, before you have a resolution and you officially launch the campaign, the scoping document is irrelevant because you've already qualified for your NYSERDA grant, or you should have. So it's probably irrelevant. But you would want to pass a second resolution to officially sign up and launch a campaign with these providers and piggyback on the county effort. You would only get credit for the $50 per subscriber after you've signed up. You've actually passed the resolution and officially launched.
Right. All right, great. Well, I'll bring it up at the next town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in getting one step ahead, I would recommend putting together a draft resolution and pushing that forward with one of your friendly town board members.
Perfect. Will you forward me those those documents you spoke about?
Yeah, I'll forward to Maureen, and she can send out to the whole group, and anyone that wants to take a look can take a look.
Yes, do that.
Thanks.
And then get back in touch with me directly if you're pursuing this and we don't know about you.
All right, Kara had a question?
Not a question. I just, am I muted?
No,
No,
we can hear you.
we hear you.
The only urgency in submitting this scoping document to NYSERDA is that there are a limited number of grants available. I don't think that there's an endless supply of these. So time is of the essence. If you can get a resolution passed, and then the scoping document, we, like David said, there's templates, and you tell your little bit of a story and your outreach plan, and get that submitted to NYSERDA as soon as possible is really key. That's all.
There are more small grants for small municipalities, which the towns would qualify as. And there are very few large municipalities who are a little nervous that the county may have missed the boat here. I think there are only 2 left for the large ones. So hopefully we'll have our 25 subscribers before that is given out. John, you may be muted too.
Yes, he is.
Do you have an idea of when this process will be complete? Because we had told our town board that we would be operational hopefully by the end of February, and I'm now saying mid-March. But do we have any idea when? Because we're absolutely ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's really out of our hands. We've got the county attorney. The resolution requires this memorandum of understanding. The machinery of the county government has operated very slowly. There's only so much we can do as an advisory body, the task force, to cajole them or to push them. They're working on it. I spoke with Wendy Matson today about it, who's our coordinator for the County Climate Smart Task Force. She's working on it. Probably a week out before that's finalized. We have our county task force meeting on Thursday morning, as you know, so we'll get an update then. We also have to get the landing page up. There's not a lot left to do. It could happen within a day if everyone was on the ball, but you know how things work, and we're trying to push them as quickly as possible. So there's no major impediment. It's just getting the work done, and getting the work done is proving to be a little harder than we would have hoped. but we're moving forward. So the best you can do, John, is just say that, blame it on the county, and we're going to launch as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Sure, Tippy would like that.
All right. Other questions, comments? David, I'm on the same committee, but do you have anything else to say about the Climate Smart Communities program in general?
We've been kind of really preoccupied with this. We're also
Sure.
working on an energy benchmarking project with the county government utility meters, and that's going slowly, but we're working on that. And then once we get past this and we launch this, it'll really open up more opportunities for us to work on other projects that are on the in the queue. We are there's the Climate Carnival, which we're planning, which is a county-sponsored event on July 16th. I've mentioned before. I'll mention it again. It will have vendors. If your town climate smart community wants to, a task force wants to participate, or there's some organization that you're aware of that you think should participate, there will be very soon a website on the county website. It'll actually be nested under the EMC website, which is where we'll reside, this task force. And there'll be information and there'll be an opportunity to sign up as a vendor on that website. So we will send that around when we get it up. We'll have food vendors. We hope to have some other amusements. We're trying to make this fun and family friendly. It'll be a daytime thing on July 16th on a Saturday, and should be interesting. So hopefully everyone can come, and once we have more information, we'll certainly share it, and hope that everyone here can help us promote it through their towns. The key is, if you know of an appropriate vendor across the range of issues related to climate that might want a table there, that might want to actually make a demonstration or just be there to talk to people and hand out literature, then put them in touch with me, and we'll soon enough we'll have a page for them to go to, and we'll send that out.
Super, thank you. So several of our communities, and I forget which ones, have their own climate smart community activity going on. I wonder if any of you would like to say a word, although Kara has just raised her hand. You're muted. Kara?
Sorry.
There you go.
Forgetting the mute button. So the unofficial announcement, so it's not been publicly announced, but the town of Austerlitz received bronze certification last week.
All right.
So very excited. And I believe if there's not somebody here from Germantown as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, we'll rack them up. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Or Colleen has a hand raised. And she's muted.
There we go. So Ancrum will be finalizing our submission for bronze certification within like the next month. We are also working with our town we've actually suggested, in conjunction with our Conservation Advisory Council, about 4 actions that we think that the town should consider pursuing that would be part of the Climate Smart Communities program. One is a floodplain management plan. We're also going to be looking at the vulnerability assessment and the greenhouse gas inventory. So thank you, Bruce, for your information and the work that you did in New Lebanon. So I think that is looking like a positive or potential go for the town of Ancrum. So we are diligently working on continuing our climate smart and conservation priorities.
All right, thank you. City of Hudson has been working on its climate smart communities actions. So we just recently finished our benchmarking exercise for all of the bills we pay for energy that is sold to the city itself. And we're ready to step into a greenhouse gas inventory, although that hasn't quite kicked off yet. And we just got a new member for our CAC who has expressed interest in pushing forward the climate smart actions. And we're looking forward to adding another hand to the wheel here. So let's see what else we can do. So,
Michael,
anybody else? Bruce.
yeah, I had a question. You sent out something about asset management program.
Yeah.
We're interested, but could you say a little bit more about it?
Well, it's a pilot program by the DEC to help municipalities better manage their stuff, whatever that stuff may be.
Yeah, what does stuff mean?
Well, it means your trucks, your sewage treatment plant, your town board headquarters, the office building, whatever it is you have. The city of Hudson was part of a similar pilot 6 years ago, and we got a little bit out of it. Although we have a very competent DPW superintendent who has said to me he does a better job than what they're recommending. So it's up to you. They're going to choose communities of various sizes and see if their program of improving the maintenance and perhaps new acquisition schedules and financing and things like that have to do with a community's physical things. That's the assets.
Thank you.
It doesn't cover,
Thank you.
It doesn't cover the human resources, but
Yeah, okay.
just the mechanical stuff for the most part.
Okay, we'll probably talk about that tomorrow. And
yeah, okay.
And no, we have our climate smart meetings like 2 days after this meeting. So this Wednesday we have our climate smart meetings.
Sure. Well,
discuss it.
if you're interested in the asset management thing, give them a call
Yeah.
and chat with somebody about how it
What
fits
how
or
they-
doesn't fit a town of your size.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right.
Michael, can I say one thing real quickly?
Please do.
So I just want to let you guys all know that one of the things that the town of Austerlitz's Climate Smart Committee attributes to the speed with which we were able to, with a very small group in a very small town, all volunteers, we were able to reach this, complete several action items, do greenhouse gas inventories, and looking to this new year and doing some climate plans for the town and then moving on to the residents of Austerlitz. We received a grant last year that enabled us to hire a part-time coordinator. And this project coordinator was working 10 hours a week. It was Deanne Veter last year. And we received another grant from an Austerlitz resident to hire another part-time coordinator this year. And it has been so incredibly instrumental to have somebody really that was being compensated for their work help keep us on target and really help us accomplish a lot of these action items. As you all know, when you have volunteer groups, it takes forever to get anything done. And I just wanted to let you know, we can think outside the box and we can look to our, philanthropists or people that care about making a difference in our hyper local communities that want to facilitate some of these actions being completed. Definitely, reach out to those folks.
Wonderful idea. Thank you. I'm making a note to recommend that to our CAC, whose meeting is tomorrow. So that's a great idea. John, you're muted. You're muted, John. There you go.
Sarah raises a good question or issue concerning receiving donations or grants or monies. And I've wondered how, if you can raise some money, how does it have to go through the town, or what are the vehicles for managing it? That doesn't have to be a discussion right now, but it's something that I wondered about. And if anybody has experience or thoughts on how do you do that, that without having the town, or does it everything have to go through the town?
No, in Hudson, we as the CAC are an arm of the city, and we can't accept donations directly. But we've had donations channeled to the right place through our one of our quasi-governmental business development organizations when we had to buy trees for our Arbor Day event. And so they went ahead and bought the trees on our behalf. So that's one piece of an idea that might work for some of the communities who already have some other institution that is enabled to get donations and to dispense money, even if your town is not looking forward to additional headcount.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for you, John, because I just wasn't involved in that end of the conversations. Some of this came about with Partners for Climate, Paige Ruan's group, that had angel investors that basically were funding 7 towns and 3 counties and their climate to hire a part-time coordinator. So the point being is that beyond what Paige's group was funding through angel investors, there was an anonymous person in Austerlitz that wanted to pay for a second year, outside of Paige's group. So I can put you in touch with Paige or Greg Vogler in Austerlitz.
That would be interesting, because I can't imagine other towns don't have a similar issue.
Yeah.
But I could probably raise some money, but I don't have anything to do with it. I mean, I can spend it, but I don't know how to manage it. I'm not going to go to the town and say, it's just too complicated. But I know when I lived in Pennsylvania, there were vehicles for doing things like that.
You know what you should do? You should ask Tara from the, who advises the Climate Smart. So you're talking about money to the Climate Smart Community Program, right?
Yeah.
I would ask her, because she would know what the policy is. I don't see where there'd be a problem if someone wants to donate to your Climate Smart committee, that you could use the money as you see fit. I would think. I could also check with Tistria and see, because she would know, right?
I don't want to run it through my own personal bank account, for example.
Yeah. Because for example, with the Repair Cafe, I just opened a bank account for the Repair Cafe for Northeast, whatever we're called, Northeast Columbia. So I just opened it because people at Repair Cafe are going to give money, and so we have a bank account. Now we have money, so I don't see anything wrong with that.
Do any other Climate Smarts have a bank account?
The Climate Smart doesn't, because I think the Climate Smart is that's what I should ask Tistria about, because everything we do goes through the town. We don't do anything without town approval, town awareness, etc.
It's got a different kind of town.
The Repair Cafe was a different enterprise.
Well, it was under the Climate Smart though, so
right.
But it is a separate enterprise. But
right. So anybody who's thinking about this, just be careful, because there are tax implications for any entity that you create that has a employer ID number, so as to get a bank account in your name. You just have to remember to file a simple report for the IRS every year. Just to, even if you only took in $300 and
Right.
spent
That's about-
300, well, fine. That's it may not be taxable, but it is reportable. David, did you have something?
Yeah, I just think the distinction is if you're getting a grant from the state, NYSERDA, for example, for actions taken through your Clean Energy Communities or Climate Smart Communities program, which is a state program, that should go to the town, municipality. That's what it's designed for. But if you have a solar provider who's deciding to give a $100 per subscriber benefit as an inducement or as a health assistance, they're a private for-profit company, and you can talk with them and they can give that to whoever you agree to. I would still want the town to agree to that, but when in our discussions, they said we could give it to a nonprofit. We could give it to some other enterprise. So I think there's some flexibility like Bruce is talking about, but you have to be aware of where the money's coming from.
Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. John or Kara or somebody else, do we have anything to say about zero waste?
Well, we have a periodic meeting, and people are very excited about the carnival, and lots of people want to jump in and help. So when we get the website up, it will be visited we'll send that out immediately to our network, and there's a number of people who want to jump on. So that's one thing that's nice. Michael, last meeting, I don't know, you're going to discuss solid waste at this meeting?
I don't have anything new to report.
Last because the last meeting, Michael mentioned an early draft of the solid waste plan, and which he shared with us, and we shared with our Zero Waste Columbia group. Several of us reviewed it in detail and drafted some concerns, and we forwarded it to Jolene in the hopes that by the time we read it, it was a month old, so it could be it's been completely rewritten, and so I wouldn't say that my comments are still relevant, but we did that, and we're hoping that those issues that we felt were important to get addressed, and some of it was logistical stuff about how it was written, but anyway, so we passed that on to Jolene, and we're looking forward to seeing the draft when it goes out to public comment, and I imagine Jolene will talk about it, because my understanding was it's going to be in the middle of March that it will go out for public comment. So I was kind of
so that's our next opportunity to really say anything about it. So yes, that's the opening.
Yeah. But it seems to me that there are, we'll have to look at it, but I don't know what the mechanism might be. If the EMC wants to make comments, are you just going to open it up for general comments? I know there's a number of people in Zero Waste who have quite a few thoughts on the kinds of things that should be in there as to where we want to go, and that's the important thing. And then the other thing is the draft that we saw really didn't have any data, and there was not much discussion of how do you get data, and how do you what kind of performance metrics you might have. So there's issues like that are important. Several of us in Zero Waste a number of months ago talked about that issue about data and metrics, and I think that is still perhaps one of the central issues if we are going to have a plan that is going to move conscientiously towards improvement. So it's interesting discussions coming up, and that's sort of the involvement that we've had so far.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Excuse me, I haven't read it, but has anyone found out how much of the single flow is actually recycled?
Yes, about 7%. Not very much.
7%.
Yeah, our diversion rate is very low in Columbia County.
I should mention another thing that we did over this last month. A group of us we went on a tour through the county waste
Transfer station.
Processing facility, materials recovery facility up in Albany. And
Wonderful.
It's a huge facility, and they have all the stuff that we see in our bins at the transfer stations. They take theirs and process it, and they place all of it at some place that's going to reuse it in some form or another. There's a market. So I see what county waste is doing. I don't know what Casella's doing. I don't know what the data is, but this is an issue that I think is worth exploring and understanding. And it doesn't bother me if the county's not doing anything right now, but it will bother me if we don't have a plan for how we're going to do it. And that's where being good, having information about the data and all is important. And if you don't have data, okay, so what's the plan to get it? So there's a lot of issues like that I think when we get the plan and we can look at it, and anybody who's interested in having some discussion about it, I know several of us in Zero Waste who read it and commented extensively on it, are very interested in having collaborators, because we really want a good plan.
Good. Rick?
So John, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said when you went up to, it was County Waste in Albany, is that right?
Yeah, they're Murph.
That they don't have, they divert everything. All of it is recycled.
All of
the pizza boxes.
It doesn't. They have absolutely a really minimal amount of all that stuff that goes to landfill.
Well, why is only 7% recycled then?
Well, we're talking about two different things here. The overall county diversion rate is the 7% I quoted. The county waste is a private company,
right?
That is a separate hauler that has this materials recovery facility in Albany. So that it's two different things.
It's a complicated.
And what is?
Oh, no, but
excuse me. You gave me information for the single flow for transfer stations.
Michael.
Yes. For this is the information that the county knows about, and we know we get data from one or two of our haulers, but not all of them. They're not all sharing their data. So it's
a hauler
from what we know.
for the transfer stations.
Well, one of the private haulers that picks up at the curb for private customers.
Well, I'm asking about the transfer stations that the public pays money for.
Well, the recyclables there are to the extent that they're separated, are brought to another materials recovery facility where whatever comes in, whether it's glass or plastic or paper, essentially everything of that stream is dealt with and appropriately categorized and shredded or powdered or whatever it needs to be. And if there's a market for it, it'll be sold.
And was that the 7% diversion rate? Is that what you were talking about when I asked?
Well,
or that was for a private contractor.
That's correct. No, that's the 7%, because all of the non-recyclable solid waste is the other 93% of the waste. that just goes
Excuse
straight
me,
to the landfill.
but from the transfer station where you dump off your recyclable material
Mm-hmm. And your trash.
and your trash.
Right.
So,
So the trash goes to the landfill. It's not inspected. It's not looked at from there on. And the recyclables go through an elaborate process to see what can be salvaged.
well, can I then conclude that of the recyclables, it's a 7%?
Oh no, no. Of the stuff that's identified as recyclable at the transfer station, essentially 100%, with a bit of loss for various spoiled materials. That goes to all the recycling process.
Okay.
So the 93, somebody else was in line first.
I think David was, and then I had a question.
It sounds like we could really use some clarification on the data. And it sounds like a little confusing to me to follow all this. I understand we've got county waste that picks up here. I'm glad to hear that they're doing well in Albany. I'd like to really understand what that means countywide for county waste here.
Yeah.
Barbados, and there's the others, the private haulers. So there's that piece of the pie, and then there's the transfer stations and what's actually happening. That's nice to hear that 100% of the recyclables of the 7% are actually being recycled, but I'm skeptical that that's actually the case, that it's 100%. I'd like to know what it really is. And I'm not debating with you, Michael. I usually have very good information, but I think it wouldn't be that difficult to have an independent report. It would take time and resources and someone to do it. Hiring someone to do a report, or perhaps we could just do it through the task force by going right to Jolene and getting that information. But it seems like a report which would just clarify what the information is as to what the current status of waste is in the county. And maybe I just don't know. Maybe the information's out there, and if it's out there, great. But we should organize it in a way where it's clear for people. And then we have a starting point, like you're saying, John, to figure out what the next step is. And the other thing I was just going to add is, John, isn't there a tri-county municipal recycling facility that we're not a part of? Maybe Greene and Ulster and one other county where they actually separate waste and they separate recyclables from a single stream. Is that right?
Ulster County had one. Ulster County was proposing one, but apparently the other counties didn't, so it never happened.
Oh.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
So, David, the data I'm perhaps improperly remembering here, I don't have the document in front of me, comes from the report, the 10-year plan for a plan that I shared with 5 of you. And part of the question that we're discussing here that Mary brought up and John was the percentage of things that we identify as recyclable that actually do get translated into something that actually works, that is pure enough that some buyer is willing to purchase it. So, but from the county's point of view, that's out of our hands. We pass it on to an organization that does as good or as bad as they're going to do, but it's not the county's job at that point to come up with a final product that gets sold on the recyclables market. So that's part of the difficulty in understanding what the sort of the life cycle of a piece of waste is.
But the county is hiring or is deciding who they want to contract to take away the recyclables. So they have a duty to explore and to understand what is happening. I agree. They're not going to process recyclables unless they're part of some large consortium of counties, perhaps. But to set up a facility, but they have a duty to, and I would imagine there's a way for them to vet these contractors to demand the information. So
right, I'm sure there is, but it wasn't included in the report.
Yeah, so I'll take a close look at that. Thank you.
Okay.
I just have one thing on the zero waste, and there's this store in I think Red Hook called the Ozone, and they have a good website. It's called theozonehb.com, and this a woman has started it, and they're really trying to reduce plastics and waste, and you can go and I don't know, get your detergent bottles filled up and oil bottles filled up. But it's also an educational site, and it's theozonehb.com. And I believe it's also a non-for-profit. I'm pretty sure of that.
Very good. Thank you. Good tip. Kara, you had something?
Yeah, just real quickly, I just wanted, I saw some email traffic about John's trip to the county waste recycling center. And one thing that struck me, I saw that only clear plastic is recycled. So back to David's point, we the people really need the data. Like I wouldn't be purchasing a yellow plastic container full of detergent and taking that to the transfer station to be recycled if it's just going in the landfill. And I don't think people understand. So back to the county, while it's not their responsibility what the end product of the recyclable material is, it's certainly the responsibility of informing and educating the citizens of this county falls on the waste department. In my estimate.
That sounds like the key is the information and education, because there would be a feedback loop to the people that says, don't put any yellow plastic in the bin. So that sort of thing. John, were you going to say anything else?
There's a couple on the numbers. I believe that 93% that you mentioned includes D&C, which is destruction and construction, or whatever, demolition and construction. It includes all the tree stumps you see that gets dragged in. Some of that goes up to GROMAX. And then, but one of the things that really struck me about the draft plan that we saw was that they say they don't know what the total is in the county.
Of what?
The total
of the C&D?
Of everything that comes in. And
really? I thought it did, but I'll have another look.
But in any case, there's a lot of, they do, I don't think now's the time to go into it, but when we look at the draft plan that goes out for public, I think understanding what data is available and not available is critical, and we'll good discussion of that will lead, if it's not already in the plan, will lead to a better plan.
Agreed. Thank you. Good. Rick?
Just to John's point, I think the county produces about 140 tons of solid waste a day. So,
Jesus.
Well, there's the challenge. How do you reduce the input to that number, as well as being better stewards of what happens after that point? All right. Any news from the health? Please.
Sorry, just a coda on that. I just want to reiterate that I do think the county should look at what happens to the recyclables it sends off once they're sent off. I know some places are maybe like county waste in Albany. They know what to do with pizza boxes. And, they don't throw out an entire container because it's got a pizza box, and some don't. Some will throw that entire container to the landfill. And I do think trying to trace downstream a little bit is worthy of endeavor.
Very good. Thank you. Any news from the health department?
have news. Let's see. We have, I'll start with some good news. We had submitted an application to the Hudson River Estuary Program on behalf of the Environmental Management Council. Bill Mancini had turned me on to it and asked if I could follow up with it, and I did, and I submitted an application for 3 of the streams in the county that were unassessed. One was the Valachikill, the Upper Taconic Creek, and the third one escapes me at the moment, but they got back to us, and the DEC actually selected the Upper Taconic to assess for the next 2 years. They're going to be doing a stream monitoring program and taking a lot of samples and temperature and conductivity and all that. And that stream segment actually feeds the intake for the city of Hudson's drinking water supply. So I figure that's what factored into it. And also the Land Conservancy had also submitted an application with that as one of their choices. So having 2 entities within the county asking for that particular stream to be assessed was probably, very helpful. I was hoping they'd also select the Rojan too. I know Colleen had mentioned they were looking to get some of their data, clarified. But it probably is because they were looking at wanting to do something that was completely unassessed so far. But I'll be getting updates on that as it progresses. So I'll be passing that along to everybody as I hear more information. I'm sure when the weather starts to get better, we'll get some more information and go from there with it. So thank you, Bill, for letting me know about that. And spring is around the corner, so we've just scheduled our rabies clinics for vaccination for dogs and cats. And I'll send a flyer to Maureen that she can send to everybody to share with your towns. We're going to be doing 4 of them this year, starting May 7th in Germantown. June 4th is Greenport, June 22nd is in Ghent, and November 5th is Kinderhook. So that's scheduled. We have had a couple detections. As you probably know, the state has been requiring public water supplies to begin sampling for PFAS chemicals. And not surprisingly, we've had a couple detects. We were hoping not to, but the village of Valatia is exceeded the MCL in one of their wells. They set the maximum contaminant level at 10 parts per trillion, and that one well hit 14 parts. So they immediately shut that off, and luckily they have other sources that they're using at this point, but they're going to have to decide how to move forward with some treatment for that. The treatment for these chemicals is your standard granular activated carbon POET treatment system. So just a large and elaborate one that's probably going to cost some money. So, and the other supply was the New Lebanon Junior Senior High School, and they had an exceedance at 11 parts per trillion. So that's being looked into again. I think the state had done an assessment last May. There's a DEC program where they look at some inactive landfills, and they do some, they take a look at what they're finding in their monitoring wells, and then that might trigger, further look at the residential wells that might be around the area. So they had done some sampling last May out there and had no detects in any of the wells residentially. Except for the school had a low level hit before they had even established an MCL. So now that there is one established and they had to sample because of the state requirement, it's now exceeded it. So now they're going to be looking at putting treatment on their well as long as
Hello?
Tara froze.
Michael,
From the
maybe I
building with
can
the
add
buses.
to some of Tara's.
Shoot, that was getting really interesting.
Sorry, did you lose me? Am I still here?
Yeah,
We
now
lost
you are.
you after New Lebanon.
Okay. Where did I cut out? That was weird.
Well, you
Just after
lost
New
about
Lebanon, high
15
school.
seconds. Right, the high
Okay,
school.
so yes, So now that they've had exceedances, they're going to have to sample for a larger length of parameters of all of those chemicals and their friends. And then, that they're going to have to do that quarterly now. So as it goes on, and as we know, this stuff is extremely persistent in the environment. So, where it comes from, they're going to try to figure that out, but it's there now. So they're going to have to treat for it. So that school has been put on bottled water advisory. They brought in Culligan water for the kids, and they're having to bring water up from the elementary school to cook with for things that need cooking. So it's, it's a hassle, and you don't like to see it happen. And now we're going down to the second level tier where they're going to be starting to sample, some of the smaller public water systems. They were kind of phasing this in. So the large public water supplies in the schools were first. Now we're going to start seeing anything that might come up at any apartment complexes that have, more than 25 people or 5 service connections or more are considered community water supplies that will have to sample for this. And then eventually it's going to be right down to the, their local restaurant and convenience store at some point, probably next year. Those folks are going to have to collect a preliminary sample. So, and they're not cheap, it's, I think it's $400 or $500 for one of these, and they take 4 or 5 weeks to get that back. So, our department had been going out and doing the sampling on the major public water supplies because we have a certain amount of money the state gives us through our water grant every year. So we could earmark places to take some of the samples to help alleviate the financial burden of it. But we can't do everybody's. So we'll continue to keep on that front. And then the COVID cases are coming back down again, thankfully, and there aren't any strange variants again on the horizon that seem to be causing any kind of a spike anywhere else globally. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that hopefully this will be the end of it, but it'll be endemic. So today we had 17 COVID cases in the county. We're at 139 COVID deaths. That's 14 more since we met last. Our 7-day positivity rate is still a 13.8. It's a little higher than we'd like to see it. There's 15 people hospitalized right now, 1 in the ICU. We're continuing to give our COVID booster vaccinations at Columbia Green Community College every Thursday. They're going to be doing that through this month too. It's 3:30 to 5 every Thursday. We're there in the cafeteria for anybody that wants to walk in and get a booster. No appointment necessary. Just show up. Yeah, I think that was everything I had. Yeah, I think so.
Michael, it's Larry Kadish. Can I follow?
Larry.
Can I follow
Please.
Sarah with some tangential stuff? About 4 years ago, I think it was Beth Mills from the CCLC came to the town of Taconic CAC and asked if we would be willing to participate in the study of the headwaters of the Taconic Creek. Over the next year or so after that, not much happened, but then the CCLC hired a company to act as facilitators. They selected 8 stakeholders, 2 from each of the 4 towns that have the headwaters. So it's Hillsdale, Copake, Claverick, and Taconic, of course. John Bradley was one of the stakeholders. I don't know if any other, because I can't see all the people who are here. But the stakeholders met every month for about 10 meetings, 2 hours each, including one very interesting field trip. And we were trying to define what we would consider a good outcome and good practices related to the Taconic Creek. Now, the Taconic Creek, when it passes my property, I could jump over most of the year, and the rest of the time I could probably walk through it without getting wet. But sometimes it's a roaring creek, and in Taconic, it can be river-sized and roaring. And all the drinking water for Hudson a million gallons a day
Gallons a day.
amount of the Taconic Creek directly supplies about 95% of the drinking water for the city of Hudson. And we've been studying that, and through a very long and convoluted process that sometimes I wanted to tear what little hair I have left out, but we reached a bunch of conclusions. And the CCLC then wrote those conclusions up and submitted them to the DEC and was rewarded a $3 million+ grant to stabilize the connectivity of the forest, stabilize the quality of the creek. And that was just announced about 2 months ago. Subsequently, we also put in, as Tara mentioned, a request to be one of the grantees for the small stream feeding the Hudson Valley. And we were fortunate to get that, I think, in a good part for 2 reasons. One, the drinking water to the city of Hudson has to command some attention. And 2, all the work that was done with the Headwaters committee that John and I have been part of. And so that was granted. Now, there's no money in that, but the DEC will, this year and next year, do extensive testing of part of the Taconic Creek. And they'll share the results with us, and then they'll look to us to see what we do with the data. So that's just a small part of the stuff that's been going on in the little CAC and the subsequent task force committed in Taconic. We were very successful with our solar program, independent of the county, which is just going to add to the stuff. We've had 54 people sign on in a town of probably less than 500 households. So,
All right. Good numbers.
Do you have any comments on what I've said? John was a part of that as well.
I think you did a great job summarizing it. The only thing I would add is that one of the reasons they did it is because the conservancies throughout from New Jersey up to Vermont are trying to protect the wildlife corridor because as especially with climate change, more and more animals will need to migrate. And there's already a lot of migration. And so understanding that process and the impediments or the obstacles to the migration for wildlife is pretty interesting. And seeing the critical role of this gorgeous area was real eye-opening. Thanks for bringing it up, Larry.
It's good to have that background and how, everybody caring about that area and all those small voices together, made a bigger impact. So that's great.
I'll mention one other thing. We had a field trip. The only time we didn't meet by Zoom was a field trip when last April when COVID seemed pretty mild. We went up to Rhinestrom Audubon Research Forest. And I'd never been in a research forest before. Most of the research I was aware of was test tube, petri dish type stuff. It's fascinating, and I would suggest that people have any interest to go up and see what they do up there. But that's part of the headwaters of the Taconic Creek. The other place we went to, or one of the 2 other places, was Wally Farms. That's a story that we could spend an hour on. But they're looking at container ship, the kind of containers you see on big ships for farming year-round, hydroponics, weather controlled, climate controlled, everything. And there's going to be a big story coming out of there soon. They have 4 or 5 other research projects going on there. And then third place we went to that day was we had our picnic dinner down at the site in the state forest where the pipe takes the water out of the Taconic Creek, takes it underground for about a mile to the reservoir in the Georgetown area. Those are interesting things happening in the county.
Yeah. Was that
All right.
before the poly pig got stuck in the line or after?
That was a different line.
Before.
I
Yeah.
was glad to see they
Well
finally
before,
got that
yeah.
out of there.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, Colin, you have something to say?
I just wanted to reply to Sarah that the Rojan was also selected to do
Oh,
the
it was.
intensive
Oh, good.
study. Yeah, it was. We had a couple of sites actually in the town of Ankrum where we exceeded EPA standards. I believe it was for coliform. So they're interested in taking a look at that. The Rojan watershed community has been monitoring for several years now, the Rojan from the headwaters to the Hudson River. So it's great that they're going to actually go in and do some additional extensive testing.
Yeah, that's very good, especially since Hillsdale, the hamlet, they put that sewage treatment system in that's, it's fairly innovative, the way they treat the liquid sewage and, with the biofilters. So it'll be interesting to see if they find anything there, and how that's working now that it's been in there probably a decade or so. It's probably been that long already, at least. So that'll be interesting.
They haven't, because I tested there, they haven't found anything there yet
Good,
in the
good.
last 3 years.
That's great.
Okay, good news. All right, Stephen, I forget when the college was going to do that kind of environmental teach-in, climate teach-in. Has that happened yet, or is that yet to come?
You have good timing. I actually had a meeting today with some colleagues about something else, but I brought this up. Rebecca Pinder, who is our environmental studies coordinator for that program at the college, she is planning it for Wednesday the 30th, and I'm actually gonna. I just posted a link in the chat. So for those of you who hadn't heard about this, and I certainly didn't know a lot of the details until today, Bard College is organizing a worldwide climate teach-in day on the 30th of March. So if you click on the link that I posted in the chat, it'll take you to their main website. And if you scroll down, there's like basically a world map, and you can click on that and zoom in on whatever region you want. And if you zoom in close enough, you'll see the link for the college. So there's a committee on campus that's trying to put all of the pieces together right now. So they don't have all the details yet. What I can tell you all is that at least at the college, we're trying to do what will end up being a week-long event. Most of the things that are happening will be for the students and for the staff at the college. So it'll be like little small events on campus, but they are trying to get a speaker to come and give a talk that is open to the public on the 30th. That's still in the works, and so I can't give you any details about that right at the moment, but we are trying to have one portion of the event open to the public with again, I don't know who the speaker is yet. There's a couple people that they're planning to ask, but I'm not sure who will say yes yet. So you can get more information generally about the event from that link, and then I'll have more details at a later time. The committee's meeting again, I think, in a week to kind of fine tune some of the details. But it should be an interesting event. And I'm reading the information on the BARD website. It's they're trying to get over 1,000. Their goal is to have at least 1,000 different academic institutions worldwide that are doing a climate-focused teach-in event on that same day. So sounds like a pretty cool event. But I'll have more information for everyone if I get details about the public speaker. If we can confirm somebody, I'll send that through the through the email list here so that you all know about it. And I'll certainly have details on that at our next meeting, which will be 2 days before the event. So.
All right. Very interesting stuff. The Bard College worldwide teaching. All right. So anything else that anybody would like to say? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We had I think a great discussion here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Have a good night.
Good night.